This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Indrani Senanayake. The headlines. The Mahanayaka of the Askiriya chapter says it is better to establish a multi-party government if an all-party government cannot be formed. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that a staff-level agreement with the IMF will be reached by the end of this month. 5 million vehicles registered with the National Fuel Pass system. The Navy arrests 47 persons who are attempting to illegally migrate. In foreign news, New Zealand fully reopens borders after long pandemic closure. And in sports, Euro 2022 final. England creates history by winning their first major women's tournament. The Mahanayaka of the Askiriya chapter, the Most Venerable Warakagoda Jnanaratana Thera, says it is better to establish a multi-party government if an all-party government cannot be formed. He said it is doubtful whether an all-party government can be established during a short period of time. The Mahanayaka Thera mentioned this when Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena visited him in Kandy. The Anunayaka of the chapter, the Venerable Anamaduwe Dhammadisse Thera, said, if everyone thinks about the country, they can work together. The Prime Minister also called on the Mahanayaka of the Malwatu chapter. The Prime Minister informed him that the government has paid special attention about the problems faced by the poor communities. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that discussions with the International Monetary Fund are ongoing and a staff-level agreement would be reached by the end of August. Following that, he said Sri Lanka will be able to hold talks with sovereign bondholders and bilateral creditors. Sri Lanka has been in the talks with the International Monetary Fund on a bailout package. In April, Sri Lanka had suspended repayments of about $12 billion of foreign debt and has payments of nearly $21 billion due by the end of 2025. President Wickremesinghe expected the IMF staff-level agreement to be reached by the end of August. Sri Lanka will have to secure more than $3 billion from other sources next year to support essential imports, including fuel, food and fertilizers. Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara says 5 million vehicles have been registered with the National Fuel Pass QR system so far. He thanked all the development partners, including ICTA, for the hard work to implement the systems. The QR system is operational island-wide from today. Police said that 47 persons who were attempting to illegally travel to another country by boat have been taken into custody by the Sri Lanka Navy at Wenapur. Navy personnel had initially apprehended 39 persons during an operation this morning, while following their interrogation, another 8 persons were arrested. The arrested persons included 38 males, 6 females and 3 children. They have been identified as residents of Batticaloa, Chilau, Marawila, Trincomalee and the Vaunia areas. The group was reportedly preparing to sail to France by boat. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. We continue with local news. The education authorities have decided to limit academic activities in schools to 3 days during the week from today to Friday. Accordingly, government and government-approved private schools will conduct academic activities on Monday, Tuesday and Thursday in the week starting from today to Friday. On Wednesdays and Fridays, students can engage in learning activities from home through online technology. However, schools may be held on all 5 days with the consent of principals, teachers and approval of the Zonal Education Director in schools where there are no transportation difficulties. Minister Douglas Devananda says that the Indian government has agreed to supply 10,000 metric tons of kerosene to Sri Lanka. The minister said that India has taken steps to provide the said amount of kerosene, considering an urgent request made by him. Minister Devananda thanked the Indian government for the positive response to his request despite the ban on the export of kerosene from India to foreign countries. Deputy leader of the United National Party, Ruwan Wijewardena, says if politics are done based on party colours further, the country has no future. He said unity of everyone is needed to overcome the economic crisis. He said people were also divided on race and religious lines recently. During a meeting in Kandy, he said all Sri Lankans should work for the betterment of the country. Now we take a look at the main news story.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The world is experiencing one of the largest COVID-19 waves of the pandemic, fueled by the Omicron BA.5 subvariant, the most contagious and most immune-evasive coronavirus strain yet. The Sri Lanka Jayewardenepura University's Allergy, Immunology and Cell Biology Unit Operations and Clinical Services Director, Mr. Chandima Jivandara, says in Sri Lanka also hospitalizations will be kept going up in the current BA.5 wave. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to Watchlight. Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara stressed that fuel will be issued only under the QR code system of the National Fuel Pass from today. Accordingly, all fuel stations belonging to CPETCO and LIOC will issue fuel under the QR system. All motorists are advised to obtain the QR code under the National Fuel Pass for their fuel quota by logging on to www.fuelpass.gov.lk website. The minister added issuing fuel based on the last digit of the number plate or issuing fuel on tokens will no longer be valid from today. That was Watchlight. World News headlines. New Zealand fully reopens borders after long pandemic closure. McKinney fire spreads rapidly in north of California. New device will investigate Milky Way's origins. New Zealand's borders are fully open for the first time since March 2020, when they shut in an effort to keep out COVID-19. Immigration authorities will now begin accepting visitors with visas and those on student visas again. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern called it an enormous moment, adding it was part of a cautious process. Most visitors will still need to be fully vaccinated, but there are no quarantine requirements. Hundreds of firefighters in California are battling the largest wildfire to spread in the state so far this year. The McKinney fire, which started in the northern Sisioku County on Friday, has already burnt 21,000 hectares. Authorities said at least 2,000 residents, as well as trekkers on the Pacific Crest hiking trail, have left the area. Homes have been destroyed. Scientists have supercharged on Earth's most powerful telescopes with new technology that will reveal how our galaxy formed in unprecedented detail. The William Herschel telescope in La Palma, Spain, will be able to survey 1,000 stars per hour until it has catalogued a total of 5 million. A super-fast mapping device linked up to WHT will analyze the makeup of each star and the speed at which it travels. It will show how our Milky Way galaxy was built up over billions of years ago. To end this bulletin of world news, we take a look at the headlines again. New Zealand fully reopens borders after long pandemic closure. McKinney fire spreads rapidly in north of California. New device will investigate Milky Way's origin. That ends this bulletin of world news. We now take a look at development news. In July, the United Kingdom with 6,557 and India with 4,510 led arrivals, accounting for 18% and 12% respectively. There was a strong arrivals from Germany, Canada, France, Switzerland and Australia, the Netherlands and the Russian Federation. Up to the 26th of July, the country saw a total of 447,832 tourists arriving in the country for 2022. Figures were highest in March of the year, with over 106,500 tourists arriving in the country. That was development news.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Euro 2022 final. England created history by winning their first major women's tournament in a dramatic Euro 2022 final against old rivals and 8-time champions Germany at Wembley. Substitute Chloe Kelly poked home a loose ball from a corner to send the raucous record crowd of 87,192 into a frenzy with 10 minutes of extra time remaining. She waited for confirmation of the goal before taking off her shirt and waving it around her head while being lifted by her teammates in a moment of pure elation. That was sports news. On to business news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Nippon Donation Foundation is active in over 30 countries around the world and continues its efforts to uplift many sectors in developing nations. It is one of the leading donations incorporated in Japan by its founder and chairman, Yumu Maranushi, who from a young age has been working towards achieving lasting peace in the world. Mr. Maranushi is in Sri Lanka on the invitation of Dr. Ruan Pereira, the National Director of the Nippon Donation Foundation. He previously donated 10 million rupees worth of medicine to the National Hospital of Sri Lanka. Mr. Maranushi is in Sri Lanka to seek avenues to expand his commercial and CSR activities widely in Sri Lanka through donations and FDIs on a long-term basis.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSB globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSB Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news. Gross official reserves stood at $1.9 billion at the end of June 2022. This included the swap facility from the People's Bank of China, equivalent to around $1.5 billion, which is subject to conditionality on sustainability. The central bank continued to supply forex liquidity to finance essential imports by utilizing inflows to gross official reserves. Consequently, the level of usable reserves continues to remain at a significantly low level by the end of June 2022. That was economic news, and finally we take a look at the weather report. The Met Department says showery and windy conditions are likely to enhance in the western and southern sea areas over the southwest quarter of the island during the next few days from today, with the strengthening of the southwest monsoon. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa, north and northwestern provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thundershowers may occur at several places in the Uva province and in the Ampara district during the afternoon or at night. Strong winds, about 50 kilometers per hour, can be expected at times along the western slopes of the Central Hills and in the western and southern provinces. To end this bulletin of news, we take a look at the headlines again. The Mahanayaka of the Askeria chapter says it is better to establish a multi-party government if an all-party government cannot be formed. President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that a staff-level agreement with the IMF would be reached by the end of this month. 5 million vehicles registered with the National Fuel Pass system. The Navy arrests 47 persons who are attempting to illegally migrate. In foreign news, New Zealand fully reopens borders after long pandemic closure. And in sport, Euro 2022 final, England creates history by winning their first major women's tournament. That ends this afternoon bulletin of news.